Everyone wants results, but very few master what creates them. It's not talent. It's not timing. It's not motivation. It's rhythm, the quiet, daily return, the decision to show up, not once, but again and again, not when it's easy, but especially when it's not. This is where greatness begins, not in bursts of effort, but in the consistency that no one claps for. Everyone talks about wanting progress. Everyone says they want momentum. Everyone claims they're chasing results. But here's the truth. Very few are willing to do the one thing that guarantees all of it: consistent action. And no, we're not talking about dramatic spurts of action, not the once-a-year productivity outbursts, not grand gestures that impress for a moment but disappear by morning. We're talking about steady, repeated effort, the kind that may go unnoticed at first, but compounds over time into something substantial. Real growth doesn't come from sudden bursts of intensity. It comes from rhythm, from showing up even when motivation is absent, from doing the work when it's dull, from keeping your word long after the emotional high has faded. And most people, they don't fail because they're lazy. They don't quit because they don't care. They simply haven't accepted one hard truth. Greatness is built within the mundane. The world is noisy, full of hype, flashy trends, and endless new strategies. There's always talk about the next big thing, the breakthrough method, the shortcut to overnight success. But here's the thing. The fundamentals haven't changed. They never will. Success still belongs to the consistent. Not the loudest, not the trendiest, not the most enthusiastic in short bursts. It's the ones who keep moving forward. The ones who stay in motion while others are waiting for inspiration. The ones who stack small, daily wins that slowly become a part of who they are. You don't need more talent. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need luck. What you need is a decision, a real one that says action matters more than mood, that following through matters more than feeling good in the moment. Because motivation, it fades. Energy, it depletes. Emotion, it's unreliable. But consistency, that's a decision. That's control. That's ownership. It's not about forcing yourself through discipline every time. It's about creating a mindset where showing up is non-negotiable. Most people confuse inconsistency with lack of discipline, but often it runs deeper. It's a misunderstanding of how progress really works. People expect instant feedback, quick wins, immediate rewards, and when that doesn't happen, they assume they failed, that they're not meant for it. But in reality, nothing is wrong, except the expectation that success comes fast. Results take time, and time only rewards those who keep moving. Think about anything that truly lasts: a relationship, a business, a skill, a healthy body, a reputation. None of it is built in a weekend. All of it is built through repetition, through showing up, practicing, failing, trying again, doing the work, especially when you don't feel like it, choosing progress over mood, again and again and again. Those who succeed, they're not superhuman. They've simply trained themselves not to disappear when life gets repetitive. They've learned to value invisible progress. They've stopped depending on passion and started trusting their patterns. That's where the real power is. Not in the hype, in the habit, not in emotion, in execution. This is a great separator, not who begins, but who stays. Not who posts about it, but who actually lives it. Not who does it once in a while, but who builds a lifestyle around consistency. The kind of lifestyle where repetition becomes normal, where consistency becomes identity, where there's a baseline of effort they refuse to fall below. But remember, consistent action doesn't begin with discipline. It starts with decision, a clear one, not a vague intention, not a half-hearted wish. A private decision, made in silence, away from the distractions and the noise. A decision to stop negotiating with yourself. Because what really breaks most people isn't the hard work itself. It's the mental debate they enter every morning. Should I show up today? And every time you entertain that debate, you lose clarity. You waste energy. You let your feelings override your values. You'll never build consistency if you keep questioning your commitment every day. It must be decided in advance. Your default setting has to be, I show up, not if I feel like it, not if it's easy. Just show up. That means feelings take a back seat. Principles sit in the driver's seat. You trade temporary comfort for long-term progress. You remind yourself who you are before the day tries to make you forget. This is where identity and action begin to intersect. Most people believe action follows belief, but it also works the other way. The more you act in alignment with your values, the more those actions reinforce your self-image. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you cast a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. And no, one vote doesn't change everything, but votes add up. They build self-trust. They shape identity. They create a standard that soon becomes automatic. But consistency isn't built on willpower alone. Willpower is a weak and unpredictable fuel source. It's like striking a match each morning and hoping the flame lasts all day. You need more than that. You need structure, routine, systems, something stable enough to support you on days when your motivation doesn't show up. And this doesn't have to be complicated. A simple morning routine, a repeatable workspace setup, a set time to move your body, a basic plan for your meals, a habit of reviewing your goals. Even when yesterday didn't go perfectly, these are not glamorous steps, but they're powerful because they anchor you, and anchors keep you from drifting. The real power of consistent action isn't just in the results, it's in the momentum. Results are often delayed. They can be misread, distorted, or influenced by outside factors. But momentum is reliable. It's instant. It's yours the moment you start. It's the quiet force that builds when you keep your word, when you follow through on your intentions, even when no one's watching, even when there's no visible reward yet. Momentum is not just physical. It's emotional. It's internal. It's that subtle shift you feel when your habits start to align, when your choices begin to reflect who you're becoming, when actions stop feeling like effort and start feeling like your new normal. Most people miss this experience because they stop too early. At the first sign of resistance, they slow down. When things get repetitive, they disappear. They break the pattern. And instead of picking it back up, they walk away. But the value isn't in never missing a step. It's in the return. It's in the choice to begin again after a setback. It's a small, quiet decision to take one more step forward, especially when everything inside says stop. That's the essence of consistency. Not perfection. Not flawless performance. But becoming the type of person who comes back, the one who resets quickly, the one who doesn't allow a single tough hour to ruin an entire day. You build this consistency by lowering the barrier to action. Make it easier to start. Lay out the clothes. Leave the book open. Keep your workspace clear. Design your environment so the first step is too small to resist. Because once you're in motion, momentum does the rest. Momentum beats hesitation. Every time. Movement builds confidence. Confidence brings clarity. And clarity makes it easier to keep going. So don't wait for the ideal moment. Don't obsess over perfecting the plan. Just begin. Train yourself to start, especially on the days you least want to. Because every difficult day you show up for, you become stronger. Every tough moment you push through reinforces who you are. It raises your internal standard. That's the real goal. Not just better outcomes, but a higher standard that doesn't collapse when life gets tough. This is how consistency creates freedom, not through strict control, but by releasing you from decision fatigue. You stop second-guessing. You stop debating each choice. You know your direction. You know your rhythm. You trust the process because now you trust yourself. And that trust is not automatic. It's earned. Every time you act based on principle, not mood. Every time you honor the structure, not the emotion. Every time you move forward, not because you feel inspired, but because you're committed to the outcome. Consistency is often misunderstood. That's because the impact is slow, quiet, unimpressive at first glance. So subtle, most don't even notice it working until they stop. And only when they stop do they realize what they had. Only then do they look back and see the ground they were actually covering. That's the real test. Can you keep going when nothing seems to be happening? Can you stay committed without instant feedback? Can you hold that tension between faith and discipline long enough to let real progress take shape? Because the compound effect doesn't just apply to finances. It applies to everything. Relationships, skill development, daily habits, physical and mental health, reputation, emotional control, self-awareness, integrity. Everything that matters is built over time, through steady effort, through quiet progress that accumulates slowly, then all at once. Those who understand this stop rushing. They stop quitting. They stop expecting huge rewards from tiny bursts of effort. They focus on the long game. This doesn't mean pushing yourself to exhaustion. It means recognizing that you're always planting something, whether you mean to or not. And whatever you water grows. Your words, your choices, your routines, your mindset, all of it is shaping what comes next. And the only way to shape it well is with care, with repetition, with patience. But here's where consistency breaks down. When your goals aren't in sync with your identity. When the vision excites you, but your daily actions are random. When the to-do list is packed, but your values are undefined. When you haven't yet become the person who acts from clarity, not emotion. Because when you're aligned, you move with conviction. But when you're not, you act with confusion. And that confusion leads to inconsistency. So what's the fix? You align your habits with your future. You ask, what would the best version of me do today? You match the small with the significant. You stop chasing dramatic progress and start looking for consistent alignment. Because if your small steps are aimed at the right direction, you'll get there. Slowly maybe, but surely. But if you're moving fast in the wrong direction, the speed doesn't matter. This is why reflection is crucial. You can't just keep working. You have to pause. You have to ask, does my calendar reflect my priorities? Do my habits reflect my values? Are my feelings guiding my actions, or the other way around? Many people are too busy doing to realize they're doing the wrong things. Without reflection, consistency becomes a trap, a treadmill going nowhere. So pause. Reassess. You don't need to reinvent everything. You just need to connect the dots. Make sure how you live matches what you want to build. Once that alignment is made, consistency becomes lighter, not because the work gets easier, but because you're no longer working against yourself. You're not dragging yourself through a plan that feels off. You're in flow. And flow comes from alignment, not more effort. Still, even flow requires commitment. You still need to act. You still face resistance. You still move forward when motivation is missing. The difference is, now the action feels right. It feels honest, like you're honoring a promise to yourself. Not because someone else expects it, but because you've chosen truth over comfort. And that's when growth really begins. The real win of consistent action isn't the results. It's momentum. Because results are delayed. Results can lie. Results can be manipulated. But momentum is honest. It's immediate. It belongs to you. It's the quiet force that builds when you do what you said you'd do, when no one's watching, when it doesn't seem to matter yet, when the payoff hasn't arrived. Momentum is emotional. It's internal. It's a shift you feel when your habits start stacking, when your identity starts locking in, when your decisions stop feeling forced and start becoming normal. Most people never experience this because they quit too soon. They stop at the first sign of resistance. They disappear when the work feels repetitive. They break the streak, and instead of returning, they retreat. But the magic isn't in the streak. It's in the return. It's in the decision to come back after missing a day. It's in the moment you feel like giving up, and you take one small step forward anyway. That's consistency, not perfection, not flawless execution every single day. It's becoming someone who always returns, someone who recommits quickly, someone who doesn't let one bad hour ruin the entire day. You build this mindset by lowering the activation energy. You make it easy to begin. Lay out the clothes. Open the book. Clean the workspace. Make the first step so small that you don't need motivation to take it. Because once you start, momentum takes over, and momentum always beats hesitation. Movement builds confidence. Confidence builds clarity, and clarity keeps you going. So don't wait for the perfect plan. Don't obsess over optimizing every detail. Just begin. Build the habit of beginning, especially on the hard days, because every hard day you show up makes the next one easier. It makes your identity stronger. It sets a new standard. And that's what you're really building, not just results, but standards that don't collapse every time life gets messy. That's how consistency becomes freedom. It's not restriction, it's release. You stop debating every move. You stop questioning your path. You start trusting your process because you've learned to trust yourself. And that trust is earned. It's earned when you act from principle, not preference. When you show up not because you're inspired, but because you're building. Consistency is misunderstood because its results are slow, quiet, uneventful, but powerful. You don't notice how much progress you're making until you stop, and only then do you see how far you've come. That's the test. Can you keep going when it doesn't look like it's working? Can you keep showing up without constant feedback? This is where faith and discipline collide. The compound effect doesn't just apply to money. It applies to everything. Your relationships, your skills, your habits, your health, your reputation, your presence, your emotional control. Everything meaningful is shaped by time, effort, and unseen progress. It adds up slowly, then suddenly, people will understand to stop rushing. They stop quitting. They stop demanding massive results from short windows of effort. They play the long game. They realize they're always planting seeds, whether they know it or not. And what you water grows. Your words, your thoughts, your routines, your energy, it's all creating something. The only way to create something meaningful is to tend to it with care, repetition, and patience. But consistency breaks when your actions are disconnected from your identity. When your vision is exciting but your habits are random. When your to-do list is long but your values are unclear. When you haven't become the kind of person who acts from alignment, not emotion. Because when you're aligned, you move with conviction. When you're not, you move with confusion. And confusion breeds inconsistency. So ask yourself, what would the best version of me do today? Align your small actions with your bigger vision. Stop chasing massive action. Start chasing consistent alignment. Because if your steps are aimed at the right mountain, you'll get there. But if they're not, it doesn't matter how fast you go. That's why reflection matters. You have to pause. You have to ask, does my calendar reflect my priorities? Do my habits reflect my values? Am I moving from clarity or reacting from mood? Consistency without direction is a trap. It's a treadmill with no exit. You don't need to overhaul everything. You just need to connect the dots. Make sure the way you're living reflects the life you're trying to build. Once it does, consistency becomes easier. Not because life gets easier, but because you're no longer fighting yourself. You're not dragging yourself through a plan that doesn't fit. You're flowing. And flow doesn't come from ease. It comes from alignment. But alignment still takes effort. You still have to show up. You still have to push through resistance. You still have to act on hard days. The difference is your action now feels honest. It feels anchored. You're no longer acting out of obligation. You're acting from identity. You told yourself the truth, and you stopped lying for the sake of comfort. That honesty, that willingness to do the hard thing when it's aligned with who you want to be, that's where consistency thrives. It doesn't need hype. It doesn't need a crowd. It just needs integrity, quiet, repeatable, internal integrity. The kind that doesn't break when you're tired. The kind that doesn't fold when no one is watching. The kind that shows up over and over until habits become identity. So the real question is not, can I stay consistent? The real question is, can I build a life that makes consistency easier? Can I simplify? Can I align? Can I remove distractions? Can I build systems that support me, not stress me? That's the part most people miss. Consistency isn't just willpower. It's environment, structure, rhythm, identity. It's making the right thing feel natural, not because it's easy, but because it's familiar. The test is in the silence. And here's the truth. Consistency is tested most in silence, not in big moments, not when people are watching, not during the highlight reels, but in the invisible spaces, when effort feels unnoticed, when progress seems invisible. Most people fall off not because they lack talent, but because they've tied belief to visible proof. When the proof fades, their belief vanishes too. But belief isn't built in results. It's built in follow-through. It's built in doing the work without applause. That's what makes it powerful and rare. Because staying consistent when it's easy doesn't shape you. Staying consistent when it's hard, when it's quiet, does. This is where identity is forged. When no one is clapping. When you forgot what the finish line even looks like. You keep going, not because of what you might get, but because of who you become. A builder, a leader, a person who honors their word, even when the reward is delayed. And that delay, that space between input and outcome, that's where real power lives. Because that's where most people give up. You don't. You hold the line. You trust the plan, not because it's guaranteed to work, but because you've learned to trust yourself. That's how you become unstoppable. Consistency is built on a return. You don't become consistent by never missing. You become consistent by always returning. Because you will fall off. You will mess up. You will break rhythm. But it's not failure that defines you. It's what you do after. The return is everything. Not with shame. Not with perfectionism. But with clarity. That wasn't ideal, but I'm back now. And you mean it. You act on it. You return, not because you're ready, but because you're real. Shame says, you miss one day, so it's over. Grace says, you miss one day, now let's get back. That's the rhythm of real growth. The faster you return, the less power the interruption has. The more often you return, the stronger your identity becomes. You become someone who shows up and someone who comes back. That's consistency. That's self-respect. And that's the kind of power no one can take from you, because you didn't wait for it. You built it. The power of grace and grit. Grace to forgive yourself when you fall. Grit to get back up faster. When these two forces work together, you stop living in extremes. You stop swinging between going all in and checking out completely. Instead, you start living in rhythm. Why rhythm matters more than intensity. Most people begin with intensity. They dive in with everything they've got, but they crash when they can't maintain the pace. Long-term success isn't built on intensity. It's built on rhythm. The people who make lasting progress know their pace. They know how to turn it up when needed and how to slow down without quitting. They don't let one off day ruin the week. They don't let a bad week turn into a bad story about who they are. They keep moving. That's rhythm. What you track shapes who you become. You build rhythm not by chasing perfection, but by tracking what truly matters. Not just your wins, but your returns. How quickly do you reset? How often do you show up even when it's hard? How little do you let shame take the wheel? These are the real markers of consistency. The invisible victories that outweigh any public applause. When you fall, return. If you're in a slump, return. If you've lost momentum, return. If things feel messy, clean it up and return. Not next week. Not someday. Today. Even if it's a small return. Even if no one sees it. Do it for you. Because momentum is yours to rebuild. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be persistent. They act because they know who they are. And when action becomes a habit, it turns into compound impact. It builds not only results, but also reputation. And reputation isn't just about what people say. It's about what they feel when your name comes up. Do they feel steadiness? Do they sense follow-through? Or do they remember flashes of effort that faded away? People trust those who are steady. Teams, families, and communities lean on people who show up. Not the loudest, not the flashiest, but the ones who can be counted on, especially when things get tough. True leadership isn't built on charisma. It's built on presence, on the energy that says, I don't fold when it gets hard. Be the one who doesn't make emotional decisions in every storm. Be the one who knows how to keep going, even when nothing is working. That quiet kind of confidence, it's powerful because it's built on rhythm, not reaction. Over time, your words carry more strength. Your vision gathers alignment. Your habits create real momentum, not magic, just a harvest of all the seeds you kept watering when no one was watching. This is where true leadership begins, not in moments of applause, But in months of unseen consistency, people follow consistency because it's rare. They respect it because it's real. They depend on it because it brings peace in a world full of noise. If you want to build something meaningful, a mission, a brand, a family, you have to become the kind of person who doesn't vanish when things don't go as planned. That kind of consistency can't be faked. It's earned. It's built in quiet moments when no one's watching, in decisions to show up without praise, in resistance to quitting when it would be easy to walk away. And the reward? It's deeper than results. It's in who you become. You no longer need perfect conditions. You don't rely on motivation. You move because it's who you are. Your life becomes rooted. Your choices aligned. Your habits serve you, not stress you. Your responsibility is simple. Keep coming back. When your rhythm breaks, return. When your energy drops, return. Anchor to your values, not your moods. Choose action over hesitation. Because this isn't about who sees it. It's about who you're becoming while you build it. If you stay in motion long enough, you become someone unrecognizable to the person who only started strong. So, don't wait. Don't wait for the spark. Don't wait for the schedule to clear. Begin again. Now, recommit. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. The life you want won't be built on effort once. It'll be built on effort repeated. That's the power of consistent action. It shapes your days. It builds your future. It rewires your identity. Quietly, persistently, faithfully. And one day, you'll look back, not just proud of what you accomplished, but in awe of who you became along the way. In the end, it won't be the big wins that define you. It will be the rhythm you live by, the steady steps, the quiet choices, the invisible victories that built the unshakable version of you. And when the world finally sees what you've built, you'll know it wasn't luck or timing or magic. It was you, showing up, staying steady, choosing to become, not just once, but every single time it mattered.